Welcome to the Radical Responsibility Revolution podcast. This is where we are transforming lives, inspiring you to reclaim your health, your wealth, and the power of your mind. Here we share actionable insights, inviting you to turn inwards and design your life of purpose and abundance.
Welcome to another episode of Radical Responsibility Revolution. I'm Debbie Dobbins, and today I want to write my own open letter to New Yorkers. And last week I was responding to an open letter from Vishen Lakshani to America. This week, something happened that I was absolutely just blown away by, and I'm going to get right into it. But I want to say to my beautiful New Yorkers, freedom awaits you in Texas. And so I want to start by saying, welcome back. And I saw this headline, which just caught my attention like a rocket this weekend. And it's this: I don't think we should have billionaires. I want to repeat that. I don't think we should have billionaires. Who said that? Zohran Mamdani, who is the new elected primary Democratic candidate for the mayor of New York. So, from a political perspective, I know that when I talk, sometimes people think, oh, she's so political. And the fact is that I'm not. I'm very spiritual. I'm metaphysical. I am just very focused on everybody seeing your own inner billionaire. So you must imagine that if I hear somebody say, I don't think we should have billionaires, that flies in the face of everything that I personally teach, believe, and over 4 decades have known to be the truth of who we all are. So what an idea and a place to begin this week's conversation of radical responsibility. Because truly, radical responsibility is not about somebody else taking responsibility for you and your life. This is not a political commentary. It's a rally cry. It's a rally cry to, I want to say, wake up, humans. What is going on? And it's also a love letter to the people of New York, who I know as sure as I'm standing here, something is deeply wrong, but know what to do next. Because I bet you there's probably people in New York that are thinking, what am I doing here? Where did I land this? And if ever there were a moment to wake up, humans, and reclaim the sovereignty of your life. This is it. It is about reclaiming your own personal sovereignty and stop relying on other people. Number one, to even save you. This whole savior conversation comes up in so many of my courses, that people are trying to save other people when they can't even save themselves. So I want to start with the definition of radical responsibility just from the get-go. And that is the unapologetic reclaiming of your power, your truth, and your ability to create your own abundance. It also is the power to see beyond the headlines, beyond the TikToks, and beyond the manipulative storytelling that's quietly stripping Americans of our agency, our culture, and our freedom. Now, I understand that we're listening to this on a social media app. Maybe you're seeing it on YouTube or hearing it on a podcast. And of course, I'm asking you to look at things differently, just like everybody else is. But when I share with you, I'm coming from that heart space and not telling you what to do or how to think, but asking you to step into your own agency, your own sovereignty, and use your own thought process, not the thought process of someone else, your own thought process to make decisions that you know from your heart are correct. Some of you know, probably a lot of you, that I'm the author of a book called Your Inner Billionaire. So clearly, when I hear somebody say, we don't want billionaires, we don't need billionaires, we want to get rid of billionaires, my head wants to explode. Not because everybody that reads Your Inner Billionaire is going to become a billionaire on paper, but it is about your own agency, about your own sovereignty. And I didn't write this book because I worship money, but because I believe every human being has this innate divine ability to create, to expand, and then thrive from their own essence. It isn't something that somebody hands to you. And if somebody hands something to you, it's like just have you ever seen chickens hatch from an egg? If you help them get out of that egg, they die. So part of this is our own self-worth to begin to create, expand, and thrive who we are through our own agency. So let's get one thing straight. When a politician says we shouldn't have billionaires, what he really is saying is, listen this, you should not dream that big, right? Because I say to everybody, dream as big as you can. But he's saying, and any politician that would say that is, you shouldn't have a dream that big. You should not create that much. And if you do, we are going to take it from you. This whole notion of taxing the rich, as if being rich, as if having wealth is a bad thing. That's all part of those storytelling messages that I share in the book, that somehow or another to look at people that have wealth as different from you as bad. And that's not progress. That is punishment disguised as fairness. I want to say that again. That is punishment disguised as fairness. And that's what this episode is about. Because as the author of Your Inner Billionaire, I teach that prosperity, wealth, money is an inside job. And it's not about responsibility, not retribution. It's about responsibility, not retribution. It's about energy and motion to give and then receive, that law of circulation that I talk about endlessly in this book. And if you ever give endlessly, your well will run dry, which is what these ideas are that are being put forth, is we should just keep giving and giving and giving to those that are less fortunate, when the reality is nobody is less fortunate. Everybody comes in with the exact same tools, right? We all have our challenges in life. That's what life is, and that's what makes it exciting, and that's what moves us forward, to overcome, to move through, to walk through the fire. But what's interesting is this gentleman Mamdami's platform contradicts the spiritual laws of abundance in every way. And I want to share exactly why that is. Because here is the thing. You cannot legislate dignity. You can only embody it. And this is what's happening in the world today, is these saviors or these people that are trying to help you, they want to legislate what dignity is. He's actually used this catchphrase, which I find so fascinating. He wants to have a distribution of dignity. What the hell does that even mean? I think it's really interesting that we start with what dignity is not. Dignity is not a government handout. And if you go back and you read any stories of anybody that has moved themselves through a challenge, right? Because we all have our challenges. Maybe your challenge is victimhood or poverty or lack. When you give somebody a handout rather than a hand up, it strips them of their dignity. So let's start with this knowingness that dignity is a soul decision. It's earned through your own action, through your integrity, and a willingness to meet life where it is and rise up anyways. because that's who we are. That's our journey on this planet. Not to have somebody give you a handout and say, oh my gosh, you're so depressed, you're so downtrodden that you will never make it on your own. Dignity is about finding your own agency and rising. And if you remove every opportunity to strive, to stretch, or create, guess what you get? Guess what you get? You get decay, you get dying, you get rot, and you get stagnation. Why? Because if you are not growing, you are not expanding, you are dying. So let's look at the bigger picture here. Let's begin to tease this out a little bit. Mamdani argues that 1 in 4 people in New York live in poverty. I thought that was an interesting statistic. So, of course, as I always do, I went and looked it up. Well, that number comes from this Robin Hood study, which comes out of Columbia University. I'm not going to get all political about Ivy League schools right now. But what it says is it defines poverty in this circumstance for this study. 1 out of 4 New Yorkers are in poverty, is because they make just under $100,000 per year. Now, I want you to let that sink in. Let that sink in. Because there are people all over the country that if they made $100,000 a year for their family, they would be so happy. I happen to be in one of those cities in Wichita Falls, Texas. But here's the thing, according to this narrative, because that's what it is, we're always hearing stories, we're telling ourselves stories, we're believing our stories, and then we create our lives around it. According to this narrative, $100,000 is the new poverty in New York. Because, why? Because it's expensive to live in New York. Oh, wow, duh. But so is LA, so is Houston, so is Chicago. And every single one of us has a choice about where we live. And that's what I teach as well, is begin to look at what your choice is. I have a whole YouTube channel on Wichita Falls. You're welcome to go look at that. But I say this all the time. Come live in Wichita Falls in the state of Texas because it's the lowest cost of living city, second lowest in America. And you're going to be able to go anywhere that you want and do anything that you want. Poverty is complex, but it is not permanent. It is not a fixed identity. And it sure the hell is not a life sentence. Get my book and see how I came out of what some would perceive as poverty when I was lying on a bed without any money coming in, broken on food stamps. But that I didn't need to use as my excuse for not rising back up. And poverty, most importantly, is not solved. It's not solved. It's not solved by punishing the wealthy or subsidizing dependency. I want to be really clear about this, is subsidizing dependency never allows anybody to rise up and feel that integrity and feel that sensation of accomplishment. So one of the ideas that Mamdani has is he wants to raise taxes by 2% on those making over $1 million a year to increase the quality of life for everyone, including those who are going to be taxed. Now, here's the thing, is that first of all, I share this all about my book, is that I originally was going to call it Your Inner Millionaire when I realized that anybody can be a millionaire. So basically $1 million with all the inflation that we've had in the last, 5-6 years is nothing. It's really nothing. So if you are looking at taxing people that make $1 million a year or more, you're not just taxing the rich anymore. You're taxing, in New York anyways, the middle class. So how do you look at this and say, I want to increase the quality of life for everyone, but you people over here who are making more money than what I say is allowable for one human being, I'm going to punish you. That philosophy flies in the face of everything that I teach. Scientifically, spiritually, and economically. Because I do look at everything from this 360-degree view. It's just not about the science. It's not just about the spirituality. It's also about the economics of how money actually works. Because the truth is, you do not create abundance by taking from those who have created. It is a fundamental spiritual universal truth that if you are taking from somebody else, you, number one, are not receiving, but you don't have that law of circulation going. You create abundance by teaching people how to rise, how to feel that dignity on their own, by empowering them to be, do, and have more. This is the only way that abundance is truly created. Handouts don't heal. They never have. You know, you've heard that old saying, give a man a fish, feed him for the day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a life. That's what this is. Handouts are just giving people fish. Hands up, teaching somebody how to empower themselves and to recognize their own internal inner billionaire and their own abundance that's inherited in every single human being on the planet. That's how you create more abundance. So let's not ignore the elephant in the room. New York, like many major cities, has also experienced this influx of people coming across our border without being vetted or being approved or just running through. And you know what? You can call it whatever you want. You can call them illegal immigrants. You can call them immigrants. It's not about that definition. And while I hold compassion for anyone seeking safety, the reality is, and Thomas Sowell, I want you to go look him up because he's one of the most, he's 95 years old. Sowell is his spelling of his last name. But the thing is that when he was an amazing economist, and he really wanted to bring the African American, the Black community up. So here's the thing: is what he said is when you have a surplus of workers, right? So it's supply and demand, and I talk about supply and demand all the time. But when you have a surplus of workers, wages go down. This isn't an opinion. Literally, this is not an opinion. It's economic facts. And I've said it on so many videos for decades. It is supply and demand. So when you have an oversaturation of supply and an under demand, it has to cause a depression of anything. Thus, housing, bread, milk, gas, it's all the same. It doesn't matter what the commodity is, but the same thing applies when you have a surplus of workers, which is what happens when 20 million people come across the border. It isn't about whether I feel sorry for somebody or I feel empathetic. It isn't about that. It's about what it's doing to the actual economy that we live in. And when you flood, which has happened, a labor market with non-documented workers, which has happened, it depresses the wages, right? It depresses the wages and we get this stagflation or this inflation, and it completely overwhelms our public systems. And it ultimately creates the very conditions that Mamdami is now claiming that he is going to fight. But here is the absolute 100% truth. You cannot legislate abundance. You cannot subsidize responsibility. Responsibility is an inside job. So subsidizing responsibility is just a pie in the sky idea. And you absolutely can't punish success into creating equality. These concepts are so interesting if you begin to look at them from a very human, spiritual perspective, and autonomy and sovereignty. Because again, you can't punish success into creating equality. Equality is not about everybody being the same. Equality is you all have the same opportunity, and what you do with it is entirely up to you. So as I shared about Thomas Sowell, he warned us over and over for over a century. This is what's so beautiful. This is not a new concept either. This is all truth that is truth that's been throughout time. And what he said was price controls, he's talking about rent control, but price controls reduce quality. They stifle incentive and always end in black markets and shortages, not black markets for individuals. But here is the thing. It's so fascinating that when you begin to look at this from an economic perspective instead of a savior and emotional, I want to help somebody, you have to help people help themselves. It isn't about giving them a handout. He spoke of the Bronx one time, and he said that the Bronx never recovered from rent control. And he spoke of what happens when you try to redistribute rather than cultivate. So I really encourage you to go look him up because he's got such great insight into what really creates an economy and what helps build it, expand it. Because now, here we are, decades after he started sharing, watching an entire city, once a beacon of ambition, innovation, and grit, being swallowed up by a utopian lie. And I'm telling you, if you pay any attention to what is being promoted throughout the planet right now, really understand that we are in a transition for this planet that says, come from your heart. Let's enjoy peace. Let's empower one another to be the best that we can be. This utopian lie of everybody's the same. I don't know, read the book, The Stepford Wives. I don't want to live in a world like that. But you know what else Sowell taught? That freedom comes with trade-offs. Freedom. That's what this is all about at the end of the day. It's about, do I want the freedom to be who I was sent to this earth to be? Do I want the freedom to make my own decisions? Or does freedom come with sacrifice? To go down a path, to take a risk, and then to get up and try again if that doesn't work. Because prosperity, true, lasting prosperity, requires a belief in your own ability to create. And if I'm not empowered to create what it is that I believe, what I trust in, what my spiritual essence calls me to do, I'm just being told what to do. And that's not freedom. That's what my book teaches. That's what this movement stands for. And my fellow New Yorkers, this is what Texas stands for. And so I thought it was interesting during this same conversation, Mamdami says he intends to be Donald Trump's worst nightmare. And I have news for him. He's not Trump's nightmare. He's every hardworking American's nightmare. I say that again. He's every American's nightmare. Because what Mamdami represents isn't rebellion. I'm telling you folks, it's not rebellion. If you think that you're in some cause and you're rebelling and you're going against the man, believe me, I'm a born again hippie. The fact is that I rebelled. We all rebel when we're young. But what he's selling is regression. Not reform, but cultural collapse. Dressed in curated clips and polished propaganda. I can assure you that I understand why people are excited because he has got a social media campaign going on. Some of my best marketing material would thrive using him as a model. But I want to talk about one specific TikTok video that I saw, because he's got all these TikTok videos and they're all made in such high def, and well, it makes sense because his mother was a movie producer. But I want to talk about this TikTok video that he did. And you may know the one that I'm talking about. You may not even know who this guy is, which is fine as well. But this video where Mamdami sits down, he looks straight into the camera and he's eating rice with his hands. No context, no explanation, just him seated like a monk at a low table performing. And this is the operative word. It's so interesting that we've become this world that is so enamored by social media and visual cues, right? He's performing poverty and humility with choreographed sincerity. Now, those are good marketing ploys. They really, truly are. I'm the everyday man. And superficially, it's innocent. Seriously. It's innocent. And I was watching it and I thought, oh my gosh, I could see why people are buying into that messaging. But here's the thing that I want you to understand about marketing in general, because I teach it for decades. The subliminal messaging is where you want to see what's being told to you. And the subliminal messaging here is so powerful. It says, I'm one of you. He wants to be the everyday man. I'm humble. I'm culturally connected to the struggle, right? So he wants you to believe that there is a struggle going on. And the fact is the only struggle going on is within you and your decision to become and be the person that you are meant to be here. He's subliminally telling you, I'm not the establishment. I'm going to contradict every one of these subliminal messages in a minute. This is how we do it in my roots, because he's from Uganda, right? He hadn't been there since he was 7, but he's from Uganda. But here's the thing. He doesn't speak about why he's eating with his hands. It's all this subliminal messaging. And it wasn't a tradition for him. It wasn't reverence, because that's why people eat with their hands. It was performance. Because I want you to look a little bit deeper into this video. Despite what he said, put the TikTok video on and turn down the sound. And let's look at this deeper. This video wasn't about culture. It was about optics. And here's what I saw. That subliminal message that says, I'm just like you. I'm from somewhere else and I've been through poverty like you. I see you going through. And I've come to save you from yourself. The only thing we need saving from is from ourselves internally, not for somebody to save you from yourself. This moment of performative, stylized rice eating, which I find so fascinating because it's a beautiful video. It really, truly is. It's so stylized. Keep in mind, again, his mother is a movie producer. Because somewhere in cultures, that's real. And the thing is it's either done as part of a deep spiritual reverence or out of economic necessity because people are in poverty. In either regard, he's not saying why he's doing it, because I can assure you that he didn't grow up eating rice with his hands. He's too privileged. I'll talk about that in a second. But this is a carefully engineered contrast between the oppressors of America and the imagined nobility of the oppressed outsider. Literally, this is not, we don't live in America where we have nobility and we have the lower class. Bringing up class warfare is something that was done in the European nations for decades. And listen, there's nothing wrong with cultural rituals. I really love cultural rituals. And if he was doing that and said it was a cultural ritual and he'd been doing it his whole life and he had video to support that, I would say yay. But I don't believe that, because there's nothing wrong with honoring your heritage. But here's what is wrong, is virtue signaling using poverty and culture as props. That is not reverence. That is not spiritual culture. That, my friends, is manipulation. And here's why I say this. Mamdami was born into privilege, right? I mean, look at what he wears. He's always dressed to the nines. I love that. He should have his own TV show because he's that pretty. But the thing is don't be dissuaded by the pretty and the production value of these social media videos. His father is a renowned elite academic. His mother, as I said, is a filmmaker, Maria Nair. And he was raised in these very elite circles, which I find so incongruent that he's like the everyday man now, right? He's a community organizer and he's running around speaking to people and understanding that they feel like it's too expensive to live in New York. Well, hell, it's too expensive to live in LA. That's why I live in Wichita Falls. Because I don't want to continue to work to live. I want to live and work as a side hustle. But here's the thing is he was educated at Harvard. He is not full of debt from student loans. He has never experienced this blue collar hustle of the people that he says he's here to help. He's never built a business from the ground up. And the fact of the matter is he's been part of the New York legislature for a few years. I mean, he's barely an American citizen. I think he became a citizen 8 years ago. And so, yes, he's got hustle himself. He got into the legislature. But if you check his voting record, most of the time he didn't even show up for the votes. So how can we expect that he's going to show up for the city of New York? And this rice eating moment, as he parades around the state of New York as the common man, literally, make no mistake, he is not a working class hero. He's just giving us lip service. He is not a self-made man. So somebody that's not a self-made man or a self-made individual that has experienced having to build a business or build their life through pure grit. Everything has been given to him on a silver platter. He is the privileged child of a Ugandan filmmaker and an Ivy League academic educated at Harvard without a shred of student debt, now positioning himself as one of the people. Well, frankly, he's a social media strategist and he's not on a soul mission. And all of these social media strategists, I'm so over them, and I've taken so many courses and taught so much about being a social media person that it's all about the prettiness and the presentation, and there's no substance underneath. It's not consciousness, it's calculated branding. So are you going to fall for the truth of your own consciousness, your own belief, your own intuition, your own identity, or are you going to fall for this calculated branding? And for me, as someone who teaches consciousness, spirituality, and radical responsibility, this kind of deceit cloaked in empathy is not just insulting, it's dangerous. And yes, I also teach marketing. So from that perspective, it is genius. Genius, I say. But here's the thing is, marketing, we should all understand the idea of marketing because commercials are everywhere and there is branding everywhere. And everybody wants you to buy something that you don't necessarily need, from drug medications to, I don't know, face cream for women. It's so interesting to see that marketing is about telling you that you have a problem and that the only way to solve your problem is this. This is a huge lie. Marketing is a huge lie, as is Mamdami's message. Because eating with your hands, just, it gives that messaging that I am somehow your people. But his background doesn't offer any of that. It wasn't cultural, it was calculated. It was literally virtue signaling at its finest. And he's doing that all day, every day, designing a way to separate himself from Western greed. Because the messaging is, if you have wealth, that somehow you are greedy and bad. And that is one of those stories that I share about in my book, that we have told ourselves, money is the root of all evil. That isn't the truth of the messaging that came from the Bible, but that somehow or another he, and he alone, has the antidote to Western greed. But here's what it really does. So let's get clear on what the truth is. He's not one of us. He says we need saving from ourselves. I don't need saving from anybody. I need saving of my own soul every day, making decisions that are an investment in my life. But things like that, saying that somehow or another we are separate, if somehow or another we don't make as much money as $1 million a year or being a billionaire, that we are different, that we are bad, that we are wrong. That is divisive, not unifying. And the worst part of it is, it's just straight out dishonest. If you read my book, you'll know that everyone has this ability to create whatever life they choose. So let's talk about policy for a second. I want to remind you, this is an open letter to New Yorkers. Come to Texas. Because it's one thing to eat rice with your hands, but it's another to strip away the backbone of a functioning society while claiming moral high ground. This is the thing, as I talked about this last week on my podcast, this spiritual superiority has got to stop. We cannot keep saying that we have the moral high ground, whoever you are, and everybody who doesn't believe this way is somehow the enemy. So this is an interesting thing, is that Mamdami wants to defund the police. Well, we've seen how well that works because of the Summer of Love. He wants to abolish prisons. Oh my gosh. We've had so many problems in the society with no cash bail and letting people out and people not going to jail, people stealing on a regular basis, of vandalizing stores. He wants to decriminalize drug use and have these safe injection sites, which literally there is so many different versions of that. I can't say that I'm against decriminalizing drug use, because I've seen so many people in prison that for marijuana from 10 years ago that have a life sentence. So, that's not a horrible thing. He wants to legalize prostitution. Well, it's legalized in Arizona, so. But he wants to eliminate that cash bail, which has already been done, so I'm not sure what he thinks that's going to do. He wants to ban guns. Whether you're for guns or against guns, it happens to be part of our Constitution. So in other words, he wants to violate our own Constitution, which is part of the issue, is that what's being proposed is all of the things that were created from 250 years ago for this country is now, we don't want to do any of that. He wants to provide universal health care with no plan for sustainability. Here's the thing, is that we already have so much money going out towards healthcare because we aren't supporting health in our country. So we have a system that's broken, and I won't get started on that. But anyways, he wants to offer free housing. Free housing, regardless of responsibility or repayment. Once again, here's a handout, not a hand up. And this is what's very interesting. He wants to tax, this is on his website. I'm not making this up, people. He wants to tax white neighborhoods for simply being white, because he says that's where the people that have wealth live. Let's call this what it is. That's just against every idea that this country stands for, which is discrimination. Here's the thing, is I'm a real estate agent licensed, I'm a mortgage person licensed, and I've had multiple different types of licenses. And every year we have to take continuing education, and there's always a component in there, an extensive component about discrimination. I will lose my license if I were to say something like, oh, we don't want to go to that neighborhood because it's, got Mexicans, blacks, whites, it doesn't matter. I would be stripped of my license. But for somebody that's running for one of the highest offices in the entire country, running the state of New York, it's okay to say I'm going to tax white people? Holy guacamole. He's the architect of chaos. And this is not about uplifting the poor. So please understand, this is not about uplifting the poor. This is about dismantling those systems that do work, to begin to look at all of the things that we do have in place that nobody's enforcing, and replacing them with ideological fantasies that have failed in every nation that's tried them. So look at all of the nations that have tried this utopian fantasy that have ended up with a dystopian cost. This is the problem is we have all the evidence that we need, but yet because it's in this beautiful package, people are going, oh, I want that, I want that. To go back to Thomas Sowell again, he warned us for decades that price controls stifle innovation. Rent controls destroy housing. Government subsidies are not compassion. They are economic poison disguised as progress. So if you don't listen to me, listen to one of the wisest men ever to talk about economics on this planet. And I want to add something that he might not say, but I will. When you rob people of their personal responsibility, you rob them of their dignity. So this dignity distribution is not by giving people stuff. It's about holding them accountable and rising them up. Now, maybe a hand up, absolutely, but a handout will destroy incentive, and it will also destroy the human spirit. So this whole notion of this distribution of dignity, you cannot distribute dignity. You can't legislate it. You can't gift wrap it in a rice bowl and hand it to the masses, because dignity is earned. It comes from standing up for yourself. It comes from effort. We all need to put forth effort to create more in our lives. It comes from risk. This inherent idea that if you take a risk, you're stretching yourself, you're becoming more. Just the idea of walking is a risk when you're a baby and a toddler. Riding a bike for the first time is a risk. This is what helps us grow and become the beautiful human beings that we were destined to be. And it comes from owning your own decisions, not from entitlement, not from policies that coddle dependency and call that compassion, because that's what you create when you give always to people that we are trying to save. It's coddling dependency and calling it compassion. You want dignity? Here's what that looks like. Let me just give you a picture of what dignity looks like. Waking up every morning knowing that your income is the result of your creativity. You created it. Somebody didn't come and say, here's a check, here's some money. Dignity comes by starting a business without waiting for the government to give you permission. Dignity is choosing where and how you want to live without bureaucratic overreach. And dignity is speaking your truth, even when it's unpopular, which, trust me when I say, this is unpopular what I'm sharing to so many people, because they're still holding on to their own lack, poverty, and victimhood. Because that's what freedom actually means. And it's no mistake that I'm recording this and sharing this on the 4th of July, the Independence Day of our freedom. 250 years for this country of pure freedom. And so, New York, I want to say this with a heart full of love. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to live in a city that treats criminals like heroes and hardworking citizens like villains. You don't have to walk streets covered in garbage while activists defund your safety. You don't have to pay half your income to a system that lectures you while failing you. You can leave. You can leave, and you should leave. And if you're looking for a place where freedom still breathes, so many people are coming And I know Florida is really close to you and they got a beach, so there's that. I get it. But if you're looking for a place where freedom still breathes, come to Texas. You know, I've got a whole video, a whole YouTube channel on your Wichita Falls. So be sure to check that out as well. Because in Texas, you're going to find real opportunity, real freedom, real accountability, radical responsibility, accountability, and real leadership that doesn't hide behind optics or orchestrated suffering. That's what this is. It's orchestrated to show how downtrodden people are. And you know what? We're not perfect here in Texas, but we still believe in radical responsibility. We believe that you are more powerful than your circumstances. Oh, by the way, we have an overage in our budget. We have money, and we're helping people from the perspective that you can stand on your own 2 feet and you can rise up. We believe that you're not a victim of the system, that you can rise if you are willing to take the reins of your own life. So here in Texas, you can start a business without drowning in red tape. You can walk down the street without fearing for your safety. And you can still believe in hard work, self-reliance, and personal liberty without being called a villain. So, my beautiful New Yorkers, I love you. But if you're tired of being overtaxed, overregulated, and underprotected, if you're tired of walking through broken glass in your once beautiful neighborhoods, if you're watching your dreams shrink under the weight of a system that no longer rewards responsibility, then I'm inviting you, come to Texas. Here in Texas, freedom is not a punchline. It's not a TikTok video campaign. It's a way of life. And most importantly, you are still allowed to speak your truth. And here's what I know for sure. If you silence your truth long enough, you become your own prisoner. And my beautiful New York right now is building the most beautiful prison I have ever seen, with velvet bars and subsidized sheets. But inside, no voice, no drive, no dignity, just sameness. And that is the absolute antithesis of freedom. Sameness. They say equality, but the fact is that they just want everyone to be exactly the same, that there's no room to be the person that you were meant to be. And the American dream was never built on sameness. It was built on sovereignty. So to celebrate this American dream, this 250 years of freedom and independence, let's claim our own sovereignty. And to those listening who believe in spiritual consciousness, let me be blunt. This ideology is not loving. It is not high vibration. It is absolutely not unity. It's control, 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 cloaked in compassion. And if your love and light turns into punishment for success, or hatred, disdain for anyone who dares to vote differently or have money, you, my love, have left the realm of spiritual awakening and entered the cult of conformity. Mamdami's worldview may sound sweet to those numbed by decades of disillusionment, but make no mistake, it's the fast track to cultural bankruptcy. And worse, it asks you to surrender your freedom in exchange for this illusion of fairness. It's not fairness. Because I want to remind you, fairness is not freedom. Freedom is not sameness. And sameness is not success. And to all of my fellow spiritual teachers, energy workers, and metaphysical communities, I want to get really real right now. Supporting a candidate simply because they use the language of compassion, that is a marketing ploy. If you're not evaluating the outcomes of that policy, it is not consciousness. It is not being aware. It is not looking at what the real truth is. It's emotional manipulation with spiritual hashtags. Because love without truth is delusion. And truth without love is cruelty. But truth with love, now, my friends, that's liberation. I wrote Your Inner Billionaire to awaken that divine creator inside of you, to help you remember no government can give you what's already inside of you. Did you hear what I said? No government, no person, no thing, no job can give you what's already inside of you. We don't need a savior. We don't need a savior. We don't need a rice-eating politician with curated humility. That's not what we need. You need to trust yourself again. And that's what freedom really is. To begin to trust yourself, to know the truth of who you are. So, my beautiful New York, I ask you, what's your dream? What's your truth? What's your price for staying silent just one more year? What's the alternative? Radical responsibility. You have to become radically responsibility for your own choices, your own feelings, your own actions. You are not a victim. No one is a victim unless they choose to be a victim. That's a story that we tell ourselves. You are not powerless. Oh my gosh, we are so powerful beyond measure, but we've outsourced our power to somebody else. And you don't need the government to give to you your dignity. Your dignity doesn't come from the government. You are the architect of your own life. And no one can build your dream but you. So if you're tired of being taxed for someone else's choices, if you're tired of watching your city unravel while being told to smile through it, if you're tired of feeling stuck in a system that punishes success, here's my invitation to you. Come to Texas, because here, freedom still breathes. Dreams are still honored. Personal power is sacred. And if you've had enough, if you're ready to create, to grow, to own your life again, then pack your bags. Texas is calling. And freedom is waiting. Leave now. Get out while you still can and come to a state where freedom still has a heartbeat. And it's much more cost effective. You could probably buy 3 houses for the cost of whatever you're paying in New York. Come where personal responsibility is still sacred, where your dreams are still yours to build. This is not just about New York. This is about all of us. Will we bow to control or rise into consciousness? Will we accept crumbs, I say, from the government? Or are you willing to activate the divine wealth already within you? The choice is yours. I hope you have the most incredible 4th of July holiday ever. And I believe in your sovereignty more than I believe in slogans. So I want you to stay wild, stay wise, and for heaven's sakes, stay free, maintain, celebrate this freedom that has been fought for 250 years for us. And if you believe more in politics than your own sovereignty, I can't help you. I want you to just really understand that this is the vibration of freedom. You deserve better. And I know what it's like to be judged. I am the source of my own wealth. I am not a victim of the system, and I'm the creator of my world. So I pray that you remember that, New York, and that you understand and remember what freedom feels like. Because here in Texas, we never forgot. Pack your bags. Queen of Magic out.